Olivia Hart lost everything in less than 5 minutes. After spending 10 years helping build her family's bakery, she was publicly blamed for a mistake she didn't make and fired in front of customers, employees, and a millionaire investor. No one defended her. No one listened, not even her own family. But while Olivia walked away believing her career was over, something unexpected was happening across Manhattan. One of New York's most powerful and feared men had just tasted a dessert she created. And for the first time in years, Sebastian Moreau wanted something money couldn't buy. He wanted to find the woman behind it. And that decision was about to change both of their lives forever. The morning had started like every other morning for Olivia Hart. She arrived before sunrise. The streets of Manhattan were still quiet. The city hadn't fully awakened yet. But inside Hart Family Bakery, the ovens were already warm, and the scent of fresh bread filled the air. Olivia loved this time of day. No customers, no pressure, no comparisons, just her and the recipes she had spent years perfecting. For 10 years, she had lived this routine. While everyone else slept, she mixed dough, tested flavors, and experimented with new desserts. Most customers never knew her name. They only knew the bakery, the family business, the place that had become one of Manhattan's most popular destinations for pastries and specialty cakes. What they didn't know was that many of the bakery's best-selling products had been created by Olivia, and they definitely didn't know that someone else often received the credit. Her cousin, Vanessa. Vanessa was beautiful, confident, charismatic, the type of woman who could walk into a room and immediately become the center of attention. Their uncle loved that. Investors loved that. Social media loved that. Whenever a magazine interviewed the bakery, Vanessa appeared on the cover. Whenever reporters asked about new recipes, Vanessa smiled for the cameras. Meanwhile, Olivia stayed in the kitchen, invisible. As usual, at 10 o'clock that morning, an important investor arrived. His name was Richard Monroe, a wealthy businessman interested in expanding the bakery into multiple locations across the city. Everyone was nervous. Everyone except Vanessa. She practically floated through the bakery, greeting guests and posing for photographs. Olivia ignored it. She had work to do. The investor was scheduled to sample a collection of premium desserts prepared specifically for the meeting. Olivia had spent 3 days creating them. Every detail mattered. Every ingredient had been carefully selected. This opportunity could change everything for the business. Around noon, the tasting began. The investor took his first bite, then his second. His expression changed immediately. Olivia noticed it from across the room. Something was wrong. Very wrong. The investor slowly lowered his fork. Silence spread through the bakery. A few customers looked up from their tables. Employees exchanged nervous glances. Richard Monroe frowned. What exactly is this? The question echoed through the room. Vanessa stepped forward first. Her smile disappeared. She looked shocked, almost too shocked. Olivia felt a knot form in her stomach. Then the investor pushed the plate away. The texture is terrible. He shook his head. And the flavor is completely off. Olivia's heart skipped a beat. That couldn't be true. She had tested those desserts herself. She knew they were perfect. Confused, she walked closer. One look at the dessert told her everything. It wasn't hers. Someone had switched the trays. The samples being served were not the ones she had prepared. For a brief second, she felt relief. This could be explained. Then, Vanessa spoke. "I'm so sorry." Her voice trembled. It was Olivia's responsibility. The relief vanished instantly. Olivia stared at her cousin. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Vanessa continued. "I told her to double-check everything." Several people turned toward Olivia. The room suddenly felt much smaller. "That's not true," Olivia said. Her voice came out weaker than she intended. Vanessa lowered her eyes. The performance was flawless. Customers were watching. Employees were listening. And Olivia could already see which version of the story everyone was choosing to believe. Their uncle stepped forward. His face was red with anger. "Olivia," she swallowed hard. "Uncle." Someone switched the trays. No excuse. His voice cut through the room like a knife. The bakery fell silent. Even the customers stopped talking. For 10 years, Olivia had imagined what it would feel like to finally be recognized, to finally be appreciated. Instead, she stood there being blamed for something she hadn't done. In front of everyone. "You embarrassed this family." The words hit harder than she expected, because deep down, part of her still wanted his approval, still wanted him to be proud of her. But that moment never came. Instead, he pointed toward the door. "You're fired." A collective gasp swept through the room. Olivia felt every pair of eyes on her. Some looked uncomfortable, others looked curious, a few looked satisfied. Then she saw Vanessa. Just for a second. A tiny smile. Small enough for everyone else to miss. Big enough for Olivia to understand the truth. This wasn't an accident. It never had been. Vanessa had planned it, and her family had chosen a side long before today. Without saying another word, Olivia untied her apron. She folded it carefully, placed it on the counter, and walked toward the exit. No one stopped her. No one defended her. No one followed. Outside, the cold Manhattan air hit her face. For the first time in 10 years, she had nowhere to go. No job. No plan. No future. As tears filled her eyes, her phone suddenly vibrated. An unknown number was calling. Olivia almost ignored it. Then the caller left a voicemail. A deep, calm male voice said only one sentence. "Miss Hart, someone very important would like to speak with you about your desserts." Olivia sat alone in her apartment, long after sunset. The silence felt heavier than usual. For the first time in 10 years, she didn't have to wake up before dawn. For the first time in 10 years, there was nowhere she needed to be. No recipes to prepare. No orders to fill. No bakery waiting for her. Just an empty apartment and a future she couldn't see anymore. Her phone rested on the coffee table. The voicemail played again. "Miss Hart, someone very important would like to speak with you about your desserts." The message sounded professional, polite, almost suspiciously vague. Olivia sighed and set the phone down. She wasn't in the mood for surprises. Not today. Especially not after what had happened. Her mind kept replaying the scene. The customers, the investor, her uncle's voice, Vanessa's smile. That smile hurt more than the firing itself, because it confirmed what Olivia had spent years trying to ignore. Her family had never truly valued her. They valued what she could do for them. The long hours, the hard work, the sacrifices. But they never valued her. A tear rolled down her cheek. She quickly wiped it away. Then another followed. Soon she found herself crying for something much bigger than a lost job. She was grieving 10 years of her life. 10 years spent waiting for recognition that was never coming. 10 years spent believing that if she just worked harder, people would eventually see her worth. They hadn't, and maybe they never would. An hour later, her phone rang again. The same unknown number. This time, Olivia answered. "Hello? Miss Hart." The voice was calm, deep, confident. "This is Daniel Laurent." Olivia sat upright. "I apologize for disturbing your evening." "Who is this?" There was a brief pause. "I'm calling on behalf of Mr. Sebastian Moreau." The name meant nothing to Olivia, but the sudden seriousness in Daniel's tone caught her attention. "He recently attended a private charity event. One of your desserts was served there." Olivia frowned. "A charity event?" "Yes, I didn't cater any charity event." "You didn't," Daniel replied, "but your bakery did." And suddenly Olivia understood. Several weeks earlier, she had created a special chocolate hazelnut torta for a corporate order. Vanessa had taken credit for it. As usual, the dessert must have ended up at the event. "My employer would like to meet the person who actually created it." Olivia almost laughed. The timing felt absurd. This morning she had lost everything. Now a stranger was calling to compliment a cake. "I'm not sure that's necessary." "It is." Daniel's response came immediately. "My employer has spent the last 3 days trying to identify the baker. That finally caught Olivia's attention. 3 days? Who was this man? And why would anyone care that much about a dessert? What exactly does he want? A meeting. Olivia hesitated. Everything in her life felt uncertain, but something about this conversation felt different, like a door opening in a room she thought was sealed shut. When? Tomorrow morning. Where? Daniel gave her an address in Manhattan. The location sounded familiar. Then Olivia searched it online. Her eyes widened instantly. The building belonged to Moreau Holdings, one of the largest private investment companies in New York. The company owned luxury hotels, restaurants, real estate, entire city blocks, and according to countless rumors online, Sebastian Moreau was not simply a businessman. He was a man nobody wanted to cross. The articles described him differently. Some called him brilliant, some called him dangerous, most called him both. Olivia stared at the screen. This was insane. She should decline. She should forget the whole thing. Instead, she found herself saying 3 simple words. I'll be there. The next morning arrived faster than expected. Olivia stood in front of her closet. She almost cancelled 3 separate times, but eventually she chose a simple navy blue dress and left. The headquarters of Moreau Holdings occupied an entire glass tower overlooking Manhattan. Everything about the building radiated power. The lobby alone was larger than her apartment. As she entered, a receptionist immediately stood. Miss Hart. Olivia blinked. Yes, we've been expecting you. A moment later, she was escorted toward a private elevator. Her heart pounded harder with every floor. This felt unreal. Yesterday, she had been unemployed. Today, she was riding toward a meeting with one of the most influential men in New York. When the elevator doors finally opened, Olivia stepped into a private executive floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city skyline. The office was silent, elegant, intimidating. Then she noticed a man standing beside the windows. Tall, broad-shouldered, perfectly tailored suit, his hands resting behind his back. He turned slowly. Dark eyes met hers. Sharp, focused, observant. For a brief moment, neither of them spoke. Then Sebastian Moreau smiled slightly. Not because of her appearance, not because of her nervousness, but as if he had finally found something he had been searching for. Miss Hart. His voice was calm, controlled. Thank you for coming. And for reasons she couldn't explain, Olivia suddenly felt that this meeting was about to change her life. Sebastian Moreau wasn't what Olivia expected. She had imagined someone loud, intimidating, the kind of man who needed everyone in the room to know he was the most powerful person there. Instead, he was calm, almost quiet, which somehow made him even more intimidating. He gestured toward a chair across from his desk. Please. Olivia sat carefully, trying not to look nervous, trying and failing. Sebastian noticed. A faint smile touched the corner of his mouth. Then he slid a small white plate across the desk. On it sat a single slice of chocolate hazelnut torte. Olivia immediately recognized it. Her dessert. The same recipe she had spent 6 months perfecting. The same recipe Vanessa had claimed as her own. You made this. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. Olivia nodded slowly. Yes. Sebastian leaned back. For a moment, he simply studied her, not in a way that felt uncomfortable, not in a way that focused on her appearance. It felt as though he was trying to solve a puzzle. Do you know how many pastry chefs I've hired over the years? Olivia shook her head. Neither do I. A small laugh escaped him. But I know one thing. He looked down at the dessert. Nobody has ever made me remember a dessert 3 days later. Olivia wasn't sure how to respond. The compliment felt genuine, something she wasn't used to. For years, compliments had always come with conditions, or comparisons, or reminders of what she still lacked. This one didn't. It simply existed. Sebastian continued. I attended a charity gala last week. I tasted this cake. Then I spent 3 days trying to find the person responsible. Olivia stared at him. The situation still felt surreal. People didn't spend 3 days looking for bakers. At least, not in her world. So, now you've found me. Sebastian nodded. Yes. A brief silence followed. Then he asked a question nobody had ever asked her before. What do you want? Olivia blinked. What? What do you want, Olivia? Not what her family wanted. Not what the bakery needed. Not what investors expected. What did she want? The answer should have been simple. Instead, it felt impossible. Because nobody had ever cared enough to ask. After a long pause, she finally spoke. I want my work to matter. The words came out softly. I want people to know what I create. She laughed bitterly. I know that sounds ridiculous. It doesn't. Sebastian's response came immediately. It sounds honest. For the first time since entering the office, Olivia felt herself relax. Just slightly. Then Sebastian opened a folder on his desk. Inside were photographs, restaurant interiors, luxury hotels, private event venues. My companies host hundreds of events every year. He turned another page. We spend millions on food and hospitality. Another page. Another photograph. Another opportunity. Olivia felt her pulse quicken. What are you showing me? A problem. Sebastian closed the folder. My pastry division is terrible. That surprised her. She almost laughed. You own half of Manhattan. Not half. He smiled, closer to a third. For the first time, Olivia laughed. A real laugh. The kind she hadn't experienced in months. Sebastian noticed, and something in his expression softened. Only for a second. Then he became serious again. I want you to help me fix it. The room suddenly felt very quiet. Olivia stared at him. Surely she had misunderstood. You want to hire me? No. That answer caught her off guard. Sebastian leaned forward. I want to invest in you. Her heart skipped a beat. There's a difference. He opened another folder. This one contained financial projections, business plans, property locations, potential kitchens, future branding concepts. Olivia couldn't believe what she was seeing. You prepared all this? Daniel did. Sebastian nodded toward the door. I merely approved it. She flipped through the pages. The proposal was real. Very real. Someone had spent days creating it. Days. For her. A woman who had been unemployed for less than 24 hours. Why? The question escaped before she could stop it. Sebastian looked genuinely confused. Why what? Why would you do this for me? His answer came without hesitation. Because talent should be rewarded. Olivia looked away. The simplicity of the answer almost hurt. Because nobody in her family had ever believed that. Not once. Sebastian continued. And because people who survive betrayal tend to become very dangerous competitors. A slow smile appeared on his face. I respect that. For the first time since being fired, Olivia felt something she hadn't felt in days. Hope. Real hope. Not fantasy. Not wishful thinking. Possibility. Then Sebastian reached into the folder and placed a contract on the desk. Not a job offer. A partnership proposal. Equal profit sharing. Creative control. Her own brand. Her own recipes. Her own future. Olivia stared at the document. It was everything she had secretly dreamed about. Everything she had convinced herself would never happen. Then her phone vibrated. The screen lit up instantly. Vanessa. Olivia's stomach tightened. She almost ignored it. Then a text message appeared. The smile vanished from her face. Sebastian noticed immediately. What happened? Olivia looked at the message. A photograph had been attached. Her former workstation. Her recipe books. Boxes of ingredients. Everything she had left behind. Being thrown into a dumpster behind the bakery. Beneath the image were 6 simple words. You were always replaceable, Olivia. The room went silent. And for the first time since meeting her, Sebastian Moreau looked genuinely angry. Olivia stared at Vanessa's message for several seconds. The words themselves weren't surprising. What surprised her was how little they hurt. A week ago, that message would have shattered her. Now, something had changed. Maybe it was because she finally knew the truth. Maybe it was because she was sitting inside a skyscraper, overlooking Manhattan with opportunities she had never imagined. Or maybe it was because, for the first time in her life, someone believed in her. She slowly locked her phone screen. Then she looked at the contract again. Sebastian didn't pressure her. He didn't rush her. He simply waited, as though he already knew her answer. Finally, Olivia signed. The moment her pen left the paper, a strange feeling washed over her. Not relief, not excitement. Freedom. For 10 years, she had spent her life building someone else's dream. Now she finally had a chance to build her own. The next few weeks moved faster than she thought possible. Sebastian assigned an entire team to support the project. Lawyers, designers, marketing specialists, financial advisors, people whose jobs existed solely to help businesses grow. At first, Olivia felt completely overwhelmed. She didn't belong in conference rooms. She didn't understand investment projections. She had never pitched ideas to executives. She was a baker. But Sebastian kept reminding her of something important. You don't need to know everything. You only need to know what makes your dessert special. For the first time, her creativity became the center of every conversation. Not her appearance, not her confidence level, not her social skills, her talent, and that changed everything. 3 months later, Olivia opened the doors to her first boutique dessert studio, Heart and Honey. The name came from a notebook she had filled years earlier, back when she used to dream about owning her own business. The dream she had convinced herself would never happen. The opening day wasn't perfect. The line was shorter than expected. Several deliveries arrived late. One refrigeration unit stopped working, and Olivia nearly had a panic attack before noon. But by the end of the day, something incredible happened. People came back. Then they brought friends. Then they posted online. Then food bloggers discovered her. Within 2 weeks, videos featuring her desserts began spreading across social media. The comments repeated the same thing. The flavors are unbelievable. Who created these recipes? This is the best dessert I've had in New York. Every review felt surreal, not because of the praise, because for the first time, the praise carried her name. Meanwhile, across Manhattan, problems were beginning to appear at Hart Family Bakery. At first, they were small. A few customer complaints, a few negative reviews, a few recipes that suddenly didn't taste quite the same. Then more customers started leaving. The bakery's online ratings dropped. Several long-time clients quietly cancelled contracts. People were beginning to realize something. Vanessa had always been the face of the business, but Olivia had been the talent behind it. And talent was much harder to replace. One afternoon, Olivia received a call from an old co-worker, a woman named Maria, someone she had worked beside for nearly 6 years. They're panicking. Olivia almost laughed. Who? Everyone. Maria lowered her voice. Your uncle keeps asking why customers are leaving. And Vanessa? Maria hesitated. She's trying to recreate your recipes. That made Olivia smile, because she knew something nobody else understood. The recipes had never been the secret. The ingredients weren't the secret. The techniques weren't the secret. The secret was years of experience, years of mistakes, years of learning. That couldn't be copied from a notebook. A month later, Heart and Honey landed its first major contract, a luxury hotel chain owned by Moro Holdings. The agreement was worth more money than Olivia had earned in the previous 3 years combined. She stared at the numbers in disbelief. Sebastian watched her reaction carefully. You earned it. The words sounded simple, but they carried enormous weight, because every success in her life had always come with an explanation. Someone helping her, someone feeling sorry for her, someone doing her a favor. This was different. This success belonged to her. Nothing more, nothing less. As the weeks passed, Olivia and Sebastian began spending more time together. Business meetings became conversations. Conversations became dinners. Dinners became something neither of them wanted to define. Sebastian rarely spoke about himself, but Olivia slowly learned pieces of his story. The sacrifices, the pressure, the loneliness, that came with power. And Sebastian learned something about Olivia. She didn't care about his wealth. She wasn't impressed by his influence. She challenged him, questioned him, disagreed with him. And strangely enough, he liked that. More than he expected. Much more. Then, one evening, everything changed. Olivia was closing the studio when Daniel arrived unexpectedly. His expression was unusually serious. Immediately, she knew something was wrong. What happened? Daniel handed her a tablet. A news article filled the screen. At the top was a photograph. Olivia's photograph. The headline made her blood run cold. Family bakery accuses former employee of stealing company recipes. Olivia's hand started shaking. The article quoted her uncle, Vanessa, and several fabricated witnesses, all claiming the same thing, that Heart and Honey had been built using stolen intellectual property. It was a lie, a complete lie. But lies spread quickly, especially when people wanted to believe them. Daniel looked at her carefully. There's more. Olivia's stomach dropped. More. He nodded. Then he showed her the second headline. A formal lawsuit had already been filed, and her family wasn't just trying to destroy her reputation anymore. They were trying to take away everything she had built. The lawsuit hit Heart and Honey like a storm. Within 24 hours, local blogs picked up the story. Within 48 hours, major food industry websites were discussing it. Some people defended Olivia. Others didn't. That was the problem with public accusations. People rarely waited for facts. They chose sides. Then, they searched for reasons to justify their choice. For the first time since opening her business, Olivia felt fear creeping back into her life. Not because she believed the lawsuit would succeed, because she knew what public doubt could do. One rumor could destroy years of hard work. One headline could undo everything she had built. The following week became one of the most difficult periods of her life. Several clients postponed contracts. A luxury wedding planner canceled a major event. 2 corporate partners requested legal clarification before continuing business. None of them accused her directly, but their hesitation spoke volumes. Every cancelled meeting felt like a step backward. Every delayed contract felt like punishment for a crime she never committed. One evening, Olivia sat alone inside the studio, long after closing. The lights were off. Only the glow from the city outside illuminated the room. She stared at the empty tables. The fear she had buried months ago was returning. What if her family won? What if they succeeded in destroying everything? What if they were right about her all along? The front door opened quietly. She didn't need to look up. Somehow she already knew who it was. Sebastian. He walked inside carrying 2 cups of coffee. Neither of them spoke immediately. He placed 1 cup in front of her, then sat across from her. For several moments, silence filled the room. Finally, Olivia spoke. "I'm tired." The words came out softer than she intended. Sebastian nodded. "I know. They're not going to stop. No, they want to destroy this." Yes, his honesty surprised her. Most people would have offered false reassurance. Not Sebastian. He respected reality too much for that. Olivia looked down at her coffee. What if they succeed? That question lingered between them. Sebastian leaned forward slightly. Then he said something she would remember for the rest of her life. "If they could destroy you, they would have done it years ago." Olivia looked up. "You survived them before you ever met me." His voice remained calm. "You survived being ignored. You survived being underestimated. You survived spending 10 years watching other people take credit for your work." A faint smile appeared on his face. "Compared to that, a lawsuit is easy." For the first time in weeks, Olivia laughed. A small laugh, but a real one. And somehow, that helped. A few days later, the legal battle intensified. Vanessa appeared on a popular morning television show. Olivia watched from her office. Every second felt surreal. Vanessa sat under studio lights, pretending to be heartbroken, pretending to be betrayed, pretending to be the victim. According to her version of events, Olivia had secretly copied recipes before leaving the bakery. According to Vanessa, Heart and Honey existed because of stolen intellectual property. Millions of viewers watched. Millions of viewers listened. And Olivia could do nothing except stare at the screen. Then Vanessa made a mistake. A very expensive mistake. Trying to appear emotional, she began describing several recipes she claimed were her own creations. The problem? One of those recipes had never belonged to the bakery. It belonged to Olivia, completely. Every step, every ingredient, every variation. And Olivia had proof. Years of proof. Time-stamped recipe journals, digital records, development notes, photographs, videos, everything. For months, she had quietly documented her work, a habit she developed because nobody else ever gave her credit. Now that habit became a weapon. Sebastian's legal team immediately went to work. The evidence was overwhelming, but Sebastian wasn't finished, not even close. Because, while Olivia focused on defending herself, Sebastian had been investigating something else. The original firing, the investor meeting, the ruined desserts, the switched trays. The more his team investigated, the more suspicious the situation became. Then Daniel found something. Security footage. Footage, nobody realized, still existed. The camera covered part of the preparation area inside the bakery. Not enough to capture everything, but enough to show one critical moment. A moment that changed the entire case. Late at night before the investor tasting, Vanessa entered the kitchen alone. Minutes later, she left carrying a tray. The same tray eventually served to the investor. The same tray that led to Olivia's firing. Sebastian watched the footage 3 times, then 4, then 5, because there was no other explanation. Vanessa had sabotaged her own cousin, deliberately, premeditated, carefully planned. And suddenly, this wasn't just a business dispute anymore. It was fraud, defamation, and possibly much worse. Meanwhile, preparations were underway for the New York Culinary Excellence Gala, the most prestigious event in the city's food industry, the event where Heart and Honey had just received a nomination for Best Emerging Brand, a nomination that infuriated Vanessa, a nomination that terrified her family, because for the first time, Olivia wasn't merely surviving, she was winning, publicly, and they knew it. The gala was only 2 weeks away. Media outlets would be present. Investors would attend. Industry leaders would watch. It was the perfect opportunity to celebrate Olivia's success, or destroy it forever. Then another message arrived. This time, not from Vanessa, not from her uncle, from an anonymous number. The text contained only one sentence. If you attend the gala, everyone will learn the truth about who you really are. Attached was a photograph. Olivia opened it and immediately felt the blood drain from her face, because the image showed something she had never shared with anyone. Something from her past. Something capable of destroying everything she had worked to become. Olivia stared at the photograph. For several seconds, she couldn't breathe. The image had been taken years ago, long before Heart and Honey, long before Sebastian, long before any of this. It showed Olivia sitting alone on a park bench, her eyes red from crying, her clothes stained with flour after a 16-hour shift. Most people would have seen nothing unusual, but Olivia knew what the photograph represented. The lowest day of her life, the day she had almost given up on her dream completely. Attached to the photograph was another message. We know everything. No signature, no explanation, just a threat. The implication was clear. Someone intended to humiliate her publicly. Again, that night, Olivia barely slept. By morning, she had convinced herself of one thing. She wasn't afraid of losing money. She wasn't afraid of losing awards. She was afraid of becoming that broken version of herself again. The woman who believed she wasn't good enough. The woman who accepted being invisible. The woman who allowed other people to define her worth. When Sebastian arrived later that day, he immediately noticed something was wrong. Olivia handed him the phone. He read the message silently. Then his expression hardened. Not angry, not surprised. Cold, dangerously cold. Who sent it? I don't know. We'll find out. The certainty in his voice was unsettling and oddly comforting. For a moment, Olivia studied him. Most people saw Sebastian Moreau as powerful, influential, dangerous. But standing there, she realized something else. He was protective, especially when it came to people he cared about. The realization caught her off guard, because somewhere along the way, their relationship had become more than business. Neither of them had said it. Neither of them had acknowledged it. But it was there, growing quietly beneath every conversation, every dinner, every shared victory, and every difficult day. The gala arrived sooner than expected. The New York Culinary Excellence Gala was everything Olivia imagined, and everything she feared. Luxury hotels, celebrity chefs, television crews, industry leaders, hundreds of people whose opinions could influence entire careers. As she stepped inside the ballroom, flashes from cameras illuminated the room. For the first time in her life, reporters called her name. Not Vanessa's, not her family's, hers. The experience felt surreal, but it didn't last, because across the room, she saw them. Her uncle, Vanessa, several family members, all dressed elegantly, all pretending nothing had happened. Vanessa smiled the moment she noticed Olivia. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was a challenge, an invitation to war. Throughout the evening, tension continued building. Whispers followed Olivia through the ballroom. People had seen the lawsuit. People had heard the accusations. Some supported her. Others weren't sure. The uncertainty hung over the event like a storm cloud. Then the award ceremony began. One category after another. One winner after another. Finally, the presenter reached the category everyone had been waiting for. Best Emerging Culinary Brand. Olivia's hands trembled. Not from excitement. From nerves. Months of work had led to this moment. The presenter opened the envelope, then paused. Suddenly, a loud voice interrupted from the audience. Before you announce anything, I think people deserve to hear the truth. The room froze. Olivia's stomach dropped instantly. Vanessa stood, a microphone already in her hand. The cameras turned toward her immediately. Exactly as she had planned, Vanessa walked toward the stage. Confident, prepared, calculated. She began repeating the same accusations. Recipe theft, betrayal, dishonesty. Every lie she had been spreading for months. The ballroom erupted into whispers. Journalists started taking notes. Cameras focused on Olivia, waiting, judging, searching for a reaction. For one terrifying moment, Olivia felt history repeating itself. The same humiliation, the same public attack, the same helplessness. Then something unexpected happened. Sebastian stood. The room fell silent almost instantly. Everyone knew who he was. Everyone. He walked calmly toward the stage. No rush, no anger, no drama, which somehow made the moment even more powerful. Vanessa's confidence visibly weakened. Sebastian accepted a microphone. Then he looked directly at her. You've told this story many times. His voice was calm. So tonight, let's finish it. The ballroom became completely silent. Sebastian nodded toward one of the large screens behind the stage. A video appeared. Security footage. The kitchen. The investor tasting. The switch trays. Vanessa entering alone. Vanessa leaving with the desserts. Vanessa sabotaging her own cousin. The evidence was undeniable. Gasps echoed throughout the room. Vanessa's face lost all color. But Sebastian wasn't finished. More documents appeared. Recipe records. Development journals. Digital timestamps. Years of proof showing Olivia's ownership of her creations. One by one, every accusation collapsed. Every lie unraveled. Every deception was exposed. In front of the entire industry. In front of the media. In front of everyone. Vanessa looked toward her uncle, searching for help. He couldn't even meet her eyes. For the first time, There was nowhere left to hide. Then Sebastian said the words that changed everything. Olivia Hart built her success with talent. He turned toward the audience. Anyone who says otherwise is lying. No shouting, no threats, just truth. And somehow, that carried far more weight. The ballroom erupted into applause. Not polite applause, not obligated applause, real applause. The kind earned through respect. Olivia felt tears forming in her eyes, not because she had won, because she had finally been seen, truly seen, for the first time in her life. Then the presenter stepped back toward the microphone, smiling, holding the envelope that everyone had almost forgotten. "Now," he said, "let's announce the winner." For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The entire ballroom seemed frozen between two realities. The lies everyone had believed, and the truth they had just witnessed. Olivia stood perfectly still. Her heart pounded so hard she could hear it. Not because of the award, not because of the cameras, because after years of being overlooked, blamed, and ignored, she finally knew something. She had never been the problem. The presenter cleared his throat. A smile spread across his face. Then he opened the envelope. The winner of this year's Best Emerging Culinary Brand is... A brief pause. Heart and honey. The ballroom exploded. Applause echoed through the room. People rose from their seats. Several chefs Olivia had admired for years were standing, cheering, smiling, celebrating her success. For a moment, she couldn't move. She couldn't think. She couldn't even breathe. Then Sebastian gently touched her shoulder. A simple gesture, nothing dramatic, nothing theatrical, but it brought her back to reality. "You should go. Accept your award." His voice was quiet, proud. Olivia looked at him. The man who had found her when she was at her lowest. The man who had believed in her before anyone else did. The man who never asked her to become someone different. Then she smiled and walked toward the stage. Every step felt unreal. Months earlier, she had walked out of her family's bakery believing her life was over. Now she was walking toward the biggest moment of her career. The audience continued applauding as she accepted the award. The trophy felt heavier than she expected. Not because of its weight, because of everything it represented. The sacrifices, the failures, the loneliness, the years spent wondering if she was good enough. When the applause finally faded, a microphone was placed in her hand. Hundreds of people waited, listening. For the first time, Olivia wasn't afraid. She looked around the room. Then she began. "There was a time when I believed hard work was enough." The room became silent. "I thought if I worked long enough, if I sacrificed enough, if I stayed loyal enough, eventually someone would notice." She paused. A few people nodded. They understood. I was wrong. The statement surprised the audience. Even Sebastian looked curious. Olivia smiled softly. Because the right people don't simply notice your value. They respect it. They protect it. They help it grow. Emotion caught in her throat. For a moment, she struggled to continue. Then she looked directly at Sebastian, and everyone in the room noticed, including him. "I wouldn't be standing here tonight without the people who believed in me when I had stopped believing in myself." A few tears appeared in her eyes, but she didn't look away. She didn't hide. Not anymore. The applause returned. Louder this time. Longer. More personal. When Olivia finally stepped away from the podium, she noticed something across the ballroom. Her uncle, standing alone. The arrogance was gone. The certainty was gone. For the first time, he looked old. Regret filled his face. Slowly, he approached her. The crowd parted, curious, watching, waiting. He stopped a few feet away. Neither of them spoke immediately. Then he lowered his head, a gesture Olivia never thought she would see. "I was wrong." The words sounded painful, as though admitting them cost him something. "I should have listened." Olivia studied him carefully. Years ago, she would have done anything to hear those words. Now they felt different, not because they didn't matter, because they no longer defined her. She smiled politely. Not cruelly, not triumphantly, simply honestly. I know. The answer wasn't revenge. It was freedom. For the first time, she didn't need his approval. She never would again. Across the room, Vanessa quietly left the ballroom. No cameras followed her. No reporters chased her. No one seemed to notice. The attention she had spent years fighting for disappeared in a single night, and somehow, that felt like the most fitting ending possible. Several weeks later, Heart and Honey expanded into a second location, then a third. Business flourished. Customers continued arriving. Awards continued coming. But the greatest change wasn't professional. It was personal. One evening, after a long day of work, Olivia stood on the rooftop terrace of Sebastian's headquarters. The city lights stretched endlessly below them, the same skyline she had once looked at through the window of a tiny apartment while wondering if her future had already ended. Now everything was different. Not because she had become successful, because she had finally become herself. Sebastian stepped beside her. Neither of them spoke for a while. The silence felt comfortable, natural. Then Sebastian broke it. "Do you know what I thought the first time I tasted your dessert?" Olivia laughed softly. "I'm almost afraid to ask." A rare smile appeared on his face. "I thought whoever made it cared about people." Olivia turned toward him. "And now?" His eyes met hers. "Now I know I was right." The words were simple, but they carried everything neither of them had said aloud. The admiration, the trust, the affection, the connection that had quietly grown between them. For once, Olivia didn't look away. She smiled, and Sebastian smiled back. Below them, New York continued moving. Busy, loud, endless. But for the first time in years, Olivia wasn't worried about tomorrow. Because she no longer needed to prove her worth. She already knew it, and so did everyone else.